All right, guys, we just had game number 1. We did just see the Koreans take an early lead, but we're going to switch it up now, okay? It's not that one-on-one. It's teamwork. It's anime power. You cannot win without friends. Let's see if they brought the right crew to slay this dungeon. Game number 2, folks, between Korea and Japan, and it is going to be a free-on-free engagement here on Dry Arabia. That's right, more Dry Arabia. We just can't get away from it right now. Let's update the scores. So as I said, game 1, it actually did go the way of Korea. Kiwian gave them an early lead up against Chart. But Chart, well, he's angry. He's thirsty for some vengeance. Let's see if he can get it. Chart this time will be joined by both Koinu and NotAkon. NotAkon, I believe, is a Smurf. He has another account. I definitely saw it somewhere in the top 200. Koinu is a rank 300 player. And then their opponents are going to be quite tough ones, actually, I've got to say. Korea kind of got the edge, at least on the ranking side of things here. Because you've got Leenock, who is a top 30 player. You've got Chart, who... No, not Chart, sorry. Kiwian, who his account, I believe, at the time of recording, I'm just going to double check, but I believe it was around the 60th. Yeah, 59th right now. So he's blitzing it as well. And then rounding it out for their team, of course, we have got Murlocking, who also is a Smurf. I've definitely seen the name somewhere. I couldn't find his rank specifically. This one is definitely a Smurf, though. But very talented team, right? So if you look at this on paper, you would give a slight edge in this event to Korea. But I wouldn't underrate the side of Japan. I mean, guys, Chart right now has 2 accounts in the top 70, I believe it is. He's got Risky Dice and he's got Chart. So technically, he counts for 2 players, right? So technically, if we look at this on paper, logically, actually, not logic. If we look at this like a pigeon, they both are equally skilled. There you go. Let's see if it plays out that way. I'm looking at the compositions, actually, while we're talking about this. And it is going to be the Rus, France, and I believe England, right? And it is going to be mirrored, more or less. Leenock is the variable here. So Leenock done something different. He actually went for the Abbasids. This is an intriguing choice in a 3-on-3. Abbasids aren't necessarily renowned for like their huge power, but they do have some flexibility in the feudal age where they can be powerful in team games. We definitely saw a lot of cheesing with that in the opening weeks of Age of Empire 4's release, right? I'm sure all of us at some stage in a 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 experienced the Dark Age Ram Rush. Do you know what I'm talking about, folks? I had that experience. Wasn't fun. Chilling in your base, you're playing the Rus, you're hunting, you're feeling good, getting all the carcasses. All of a sudden, 8 Rams come out of the fog from 4 different players, and you're dead. Not sure if we're looking at that here. That could be a cheesy play they're going to attempt. They definitely have the firepower to back that up with England and France. It would be very all-in, but they do have a 1-point lead. Maybe they're looking to be a little bit more gambly with this. Their opponents, on the other hand, have a more refined and proven strategy in the 3-on-3s. We've actually seen Hera, Marine Lord, and Kapoch use this combination to great effect. The whole concept behind it is that the Rus player tech booms up into Castle Age and gets Horse Archers quickly, while the English player almost completely just commits the entire game to feudal and spamming Lombos, and then the French player commits hard into feudal and then looks for a later timing on his Castle Age with a TC boom to recover his economy later, giving them that brutal front line of knights to go in conjunction with the Lombos and Horse Archers. And that's why I would give a slight edge. I think everything Leenock's going to do before Castle Age is counted out by this composition that Team 2, a.k.a. Japan, has fielded. We'll see what he's going to do. He's going very early into Spears, right? That's the one edge you have. The problem is with England being on your opponent's side, they are going to have longbows straight away, right? In the middle of the tech up. Because, of course, you always choose the Council Hall, so you're able to produce them instantly. And remember that longbows, they do get that bonus damage against the spears. Question is whether Murlocking can match. One important detail that comes up a lot when we watch these 3-on-3s is who's your flank players, right? Because the player in the center is the one that tends to be more greedy. They can get away with it. And that's where, like, there is that questionability of, like, should it have been Leenock in the center versus your French player, right? Kiwian being here. And I think there is some arguments for it, especially if you're playing an eco-boomy type Abbasid. But as I said, in the 3-on-3s, I don't think the goal of the Abbasid player is to be the eco-boomer. If you want an eco-booming Civ in 3-on-3s, we've seen people attempt Mongols with limited success. I think another one that really does come to mind as quite good for it is Delhi, because they need a little bit more breathing room in that regard. Sets them up for a good timing on, like, you know, getting access to Combat Defender and slogging towards those sacred sites. Not really ideal for this map, though. Usually, if you play Delhi as a central Civ on this map, the greedy Civ on your team, it's more about the elephant timing and aggressing with that. And then when we see the Tower Wolfmans come out, it's usually because someone dropped a forward archery range near their opponent's side. But we don't have to worry about Delhi here. Hopefully we get to see some of them in the series. I think Delhi is very interesting in these team games. There's a lot of potential, especially around the Tower of Victory, with that permanent attack speed booster, which I believe did affect allied units. I just don't know if it was intentional. But this is what we're looking for anyway. Leenock, he does move forward. He drops an outpost as well, so he's giving himself a soft fallback point, just in case his opponent pushes out Lombos. And they're doing it against the Roost player. This is so smart. This is the one you want to target. Remember, we said this is the player that will not have anything aggressive coming out early. At least usual. Koinu actually did choose to go towards the stable. I don't think the stable is going to be a solution, though. With Spears coming out, this is the worst-case scenario. You're playing against an Abbasid player. The only thing you can do in the early game with Spears, and you have two Civs that are looking to do cavalry units now. This can backfire so easily. But look, they catch out the villager. They snipe him before he can get the outpost complete, and they're going to have to bail on the battering ram. He needs the longbowman here. Murlocking's on his way, but he's still some way away. And that is going to expose the battering ram. The only good news, of course, is these longbowmen cannot burn it down quick enough. He needs the knights, he needs the scouts. And the longbos are moving across. They need to group quickly. Where the hell are the knights coming from Kiwian? Kiwian seems to be a little bit delayed on this front. Wow, there we go. One will finally arrive. And NotAkon took a lot of damage on one of these, so they're kind of even in that regard, especially if they snipe out that second knight quickly. And this is where it can be dicey. If you actually catch the right fight, these spearmen will break the fight in favor of you. But most times, like 8 times out of 10, being the player with spearmen in these early skirmishes feels like the worst feeling in the world. Because if you're against longbowmen, you're just going to get picked apart time and time again. A nice outpost being dropped by England. This is really cool. This is so much pressure. This is good all in. I think that this is something a lot of players kind of shriek away from. They're scared to do. They shirk away from it a lot in these team games. But if you actually think about the way a lot of team games end, if you take out one player, you win the game. So targeting someone down that you think is being too greedy is the perfect way to actually play 3-on-3s. And if this works, they'll just win the game outright. If they don't, if they get repelled, think how big the map is, right? It's not going to be the end of the game for you. You're going to have recovery points. That's why striking first is a big advantage on 3-on-3 engagements. And especially when you consider your opponent done this. He did actually commit the early knights. This is really bad. It's going to give him time to build the battering rams. And even if you build into archers now, you're up against longbos. So really, the only person who can bail you out right now is Char. And although I said he has 2 accounts in the top 100, he's going to have to play like he's 2 players in this game. He's going to have to be that far ahead of his opponents. Especially when this happens, Kiwian, really nicely played. He's just catching them as they trickle in. This is the other exploitive detail about this. Because England is on the opposite flank, and it's Lombos that move at 1.12 tiles on such a big map, it takes them so long to reinforce. In fact, if you look at the comparative, Murlocking has the same distance, and he's coming from the opposite side of the map. So he's able to get into the fight just as quickly as Char. So if he ever gets a number advantage over Char, he will keep that number advantage. Ram being harassed away. A lot of people being committed, even the villagers. That's really dangerous coming out from Koinu. It's going to damage his economy. They snipe out a few of them. They back away. Knights will get in, but they'll instantly be stabbed in the back, so they have to back away before they can do some serious damage to Murlocking. Murlocking is trying to stab in again. Target out a few longbowmen. Battering ram once again being targeted with the villagers again. But no, look, Leenock, he moves away. He exposed the line. However, these knights, they're not as tanky. You're seeing the damage being done. Remember, that's the kind of conditioning, right? When you have access to early knights, yes, they can be useful, but they're not as tanky. They're not as cost-effective as people who get access to them in Castle Age. And it's harder to sustain at this early phase of the game, just building them constantly. And also, it feels really rough if you misuse them as the roost, because the difference with the French is they can access chivalry and slowly just recuperate that damage that occurred, right? If you're playing as the roost, you don't have the same option. This knight at 16 health is going to remain that way unless you get up to castle and build a monk. Meanwhile, if you want as NotAkon, you can see it already. He's starting to tick up again. And the question has to be, where the hell is Kiwian right now? Oh, wow. Yeah, he's still patrolling between. They have to ignore him as well. They can't respond to this. It means that you're eventually going to be outnumbered by 2 players versus your 3 because you've got limited force in this base, right? And you can see he just keeps picking apart anyone that runs in. And Char, this is looking rough. He's going to be outnumbered. I love this bug, by the way. Why use your longbow when you can wear it, guys? That's a fashion statement right there. It's like wearing a paper hat. What a beaut. But yeah, that means you're stuck with just 10 longbowmen. And now look at the count. It's 17 longbowmen for Murlocking, and they're sieging the outer buildings. They're even on the Golden Gate now. This is going to stunt your ability to tech up. You've already been forced early into archers and knights, and now you have no access to go in castle if you lose this Golden Gate. So he has to keep it alive. He also has no gold income, right? It's just trade. That's the only way he's been getting knights. They have to get rid of these rams soon, and it is 3 of them. And it is a lot of longbows and enough spearmen to repulse these knights. Here they come. Leenock moving through to engage. Baits them in a little bit. And the archer count is not looking good right now. The longbows are holding their own for the moment. They're going to be charged in onto. Stabs come out. Knights trying to stick on top. They're trying to run around Leenock. Leenock getting decent value out of the spears, but the spears are all but gone. And the longbows trying to trade as best they can, but it's still 2 versus 3 here. They needed the knights across the whole time still. Kiwian has just been playing interception. It means the main army is going to be spent. They are going to be repelled away. Baron Ram almost got through the Golden Gate, but it wasn't good enough. So they lose the main battalion. They make it a somewhat even trade, but the difference maker is the fact that while there are still knight counts up for Kiwian, Kiwian was not there to defend them. He was so far away. All right? He was that vassal that promised to be there at the final fight, and he arrives a day late. Everyone's just dead. He's like, well, I guess this makes me king. Just puts the crown on and says, I guess I'll be the first to tech up, because the one thing to be said of this is Kiwian has saved up a lot of food and a lot of gold, courtesy of the rate at which he was pushing out knights. So he's probably going to be first to hit castle. And that could be a big benefactor if he keeps this knight army up, right? Then you get them up to the veteran royal status, and they're able to just completely trounce what NotAkon has. And NotAkon might be in trouble. Kiwian's going to go in. Yeah, he sees it. Come. No way. Yes, he turns. He turns. The easy targets. He wants these villies. They're getting away quick enough, though, so he has to back off in the end. I think if he's a little bit quicker, he actually snipes out 3, maybe 4 those villagers, but missed opportunity there. Doesn't dent NotAkon's economy. It is fine, though. Keep in mind that NotAkon had to keep replacing the knights. He had to keep pushing up. He went for early transition to farms. It means that you're going to get into castle age probably a whole minute plus before the other French player does. And also, look at this. Branches off multiple groups. He harasses straight into England's economy as well. That is a dangerous move to make, though. I would say the one player whose economy shouldn't be diving at this stage is England. Remember, England, their garrison buildings fire double the amount of arrows of any other civ. So even with your resistance, your missile resistance, and your health, you're still going to take substantial damage to any knights that dive in. It looks like it is going to be ready. Kiwian, as we said, will be first to tech up, has access to the required resources if he wants to go for it, and he will. And he's going to be straight into the guild hall, as it almost always is. Knights, meanwhile, running away as they are outnumbered. Need to be careful not to get caught out here as they retreat. And it looks like they should get away, and they have the chivalry rights. They're going to heal off this damage eventually. So we'll just run all the way away. The tech up one is going to come out, and that should be when NotAkon looks to back up a bit. Oh, look at this, though. Leenock. If they play this right, they're going to bait them in. It's a stealth forest. Do you run in? He holds back. He knows someone's not right. He runs in now, though, takes a few stabs, able to back away just in time, and they will clean up a few of these spearmen belonging to Char. However, you need to be careful. Kiwian's going to lose one of the knights instead. Nice attempt there, but it looked like he revealed himself. You notice that on the edge of these stealth forests, you can somewhat see in, and it looks like they've got just enough vision onto Leenock's spears to tip them off. That's why NotAkon just pulled away just in time. That would have been catastrophic if he ran full face into that. He would have lost 4, maybe 5 of the knights, and then the number advantage is going to be there for Kiwian, and he can run through and engage them with the longbows. I'm going to give credit to Kiwian, by the way. He may not have been there. He was running an interception. It did cost him the early siege. But the damage he's done, the harassment, the skirmishing, the distractions he's created, has created a lot of space for his teammates to build up their economy and scale it, right? And it's also allowed him to tech up at the same time. The one person that is suffering, of course, is Leenock, but this is expected. As the opposite player, you're more or less expendable. You're playing this England situation, right? It's almost like England is playing more like the Rus or the French, right? Where they're going to get to tech up. I don't necessarily expect Leenock to rush for a tech up. He's mainly just going to be your frontline cannon fodder of spears and archers, right? I say archers. For the moment, it is just going to be spears, though. And that should be veteran status soon. Soon. No signs of vet status coming out just yet. And NotAkon moving in. The spears are here, though. Leenock will protect himself, backs them away. Not the right player to attempt this to, right? This is equivalent to what we're talking about with England. This is the player that's going to have anti-cavalry. You need a different target. And that's the frustrating part about the way this flowed, right? Kiwian, he actually drew attention away from the weakest player. If they had pushed through after they defended that siege onto the west side and attacked Murlocking, Murlocking would have died. He would have been so exposed. You can see, right? He only had the King's Palace. So everything that Kiwian done was intentional. He dragged the raids onto the right side, understanding that once they're in position with this static force of longbows and spearmen, the only move available to Japan would be to push in on the eastern front. And that is exactly what you want. Like we said, Leenock, he's the bottom, right? He's the entry fragger. He's meant to brunt the attack while the other two have a fun game. And so far, this strategy is working out fantastically. There we go. Murlocking is going to reach the castle age, but keep in mind, only one player on the side of Japan has reached into castle. So Korea has this huge advantage. And like we said, this is what we were aiming for, right? England isn't playing England standard in 3v3s. Their goal isn't to remain unteched. It is just the Abyss's goal. And even the Abysses are getting up now, culturing half research because of the way he played his economy. And the way they forced their opponents to double down on early military. It's really hurt the Team 2 quite a bit. And you see Chart's trying to recover now. He's building into King's Palace, but he's behind the England player on the other side of the map. That England player that's ramping this up into crossbows now. This is so unexpected. You would never expect an England player to do this. I've seen so many games, the highest level, England players only push out longbows because they scale quite well. And even against armored targets, when you get enough of them, they're scary. But the fact he's going to mix crossbows in here is going to be extra spooky. And he can afford to because of that composite force, right? It's that whole idea of when you play team games, you can double down on what you do well. And other players, the design of their civs, allow them to fill the gaps, right? The weaknesses in your line. And that's what's going to be making this very exciting to watch. Meanwhile, more knights harassing in. Also giving that scouting info. So keeping eyeballs on. A lot of players now catching up. Only Leenock remaining to tech up, but he'll be there very soon. There it is. Really good timing. For Abbasid, considering what his role was in this, I'm really impressed that Leenock kept up like this. I think it speaks volumes to the raids again. It's just Kiwian. Kiwian has forced so much of an investment out of all three of these players to defend. And although they have a good standing army, they haven't been able to push with that standing army. It's always been sitting back here, right? Playing patty cake with each other. And it means that now they're moving in. And this is where the Abyssids get scary. This is why you only need spears, because you bring the Mangonels. Remember, he's the only player in this lobby that can build out in the field. And this is the edge they were looking for when they picked the Abyssids in a 3-on-3 on Dry Arabia. And Trip Mangonel is going to be quite the welcoming. They're going to see them. Rolling on in. Leenock doesn't quite have vision yet, but he's going to wind up his Mangonel arms soon. And remember, these siege buildings quite well now. This wraparound for the Knights, they need a guard for it. The Spearmen are nearby. Leenock moves in, siege in. Oh my god, the damage! He gets the food line. Spearmen move across. Knights can't engage. They're all out of position as well. The Longbowmen are so deep and far away right now, they can't assist with this. And even if they could get in range, they'd be exposed to the Mangonel fire. And this is the edge they were looking for. This is where they will look to close the game. Right now, they just say, your move. I've got a Baron Ram, I've got 3 Mangonels. You're going to lose buildings fast. Horse Archers. Knights charging. Longbows targeted. Backs away, but half of them already gone. Knights charge in. They see the exposure. They go for 1 round of the torches. That's not good enough. And now the Horse Archers exposed to the Mangonels. The Longbow's going to be able to clean them up. Charge in with the Spearmen. They have to give their lives just to try and get rid of these Mangonels. But there's just so many of them at this stage. And the Spearmen, the location from Leenock holding really well. It's going to back up the Mangonels. 2 of them are down. 1 left to burn through, but damage might have already been done. Spears stabbing on the side. Mangonel shot comes out again. Looks onto the Horse Archers. Should have went for the Longbows. Can't get the second shot. Now the Knights are in, though. There's so many of them going to get picked off as they try to retreat away. Longbow force is outnumbering. Chart has the edge here, but the Knights are going to charge in. NotAkon, he doesn't have a strong enough line anymore. He has to back up here. A lot of Longbowmen might be lost. Spears, rebuilding the Mangonels, are trying to back up. This is the commitment, though. Kiwian, in for a penny, in for a pound. He can't get out now. He's going to lose the Knights for this. And it means it will turn into a 2-on-3 again, just like last time. But this time, Kiwian will not have the excuse of I was skirmishing. Instead, he was diving. It reminds you of people when you're playing Dota or League with, right? Oh, yeah, I just dove past. I was stronger. And then I died and fed back the advantage. That's exactly what happens here. However, the Mangonels might hold them. More longbows coming in, crossbows as well. Spears have been upgraded now into the vet status. They'll give their lives. Mangonel still being built up. And they're actually maintaining the numbers. Kiwian renewing the Knight line, bringing them in. He's keeping pace with NotAkon. NotAkon has lost so many of them, and so many of the remaining ones are low that he can't get a good charge off. He's going to lose them. And they continue to lose ground. Chart is not even here to help defend this. He fell back to the back of the base. Raids coming in on the east side. Kiwian, he's playing interception again. He's doing the same strategy that was winning them the early engagements. This time, however, they had the siege weapons to back up a main fight and back up a push into the base of Koinu. And these Knights, they dove even deeper. It's just all a distraction. Mangonel's moving in, couldn't quite get the shot. Need to be careful. Leenock is diving way too deep. And you see, he's actually getting focus fire now by the TC. Needs to back up. But the important detail is there's just too many units here from Murlocking. You can't even get a good charge in. Look at this. Dead. Dead. Dead! In some games, the saying is, I hope they like beef, but in this one, I hope they like rocks. Because right now, Leenock is rocking their world, and he's looking to rock it more. They're thinking about dropping a forward keep here, and this is a beaut. This is a beaut coming out from Murlocking. Because he has the King's Palace, he has surplus economy, right? He can actually afford to send these villagers forward, and this foothold in the base of Koinu should be the beginning of the end. Koinu just trying to recover, building the springles, built a siege workshop all the way out here. Couldn't access his primary wood line. Couldn't go for the one in the west. This is crippling him so hard. He doesn't have any military anymore. He's relying upon his own teammates to carry him. And then the army, it's not looking good to do that. Chart lost all the longbowmen. You know, NotAkon trying to rebuild the knights, but being matched by Kiwian at all times, actually being exceeded by him. Puts them at such a disadvantage. I don't see how they get back in this. Instead, Koinu, he might just die very soon. TC's exposed. Golden Gate is already gone. And like we said, these Mangonels, they are damn good at getting through buildings. Nice snipe out there. Gets rid of at least one of them with the Springald. But now you just create this buffer zone. You won't be able to reach the Mangonels. The keep is cancelled. Instead, they go for an outpost. But that's going to give them early warnings on a flanking attack, which means that they can be more liberal with their placement and stay further forward to protect the Mangonels. Baron Ram. Knights in. TC almost gone. 11 villagers waiting to be picked apart by the Hail Mary of shots coming their way from the England player here. And even goes for his wood line. Murlocking, what the hell? It's a fitting name. Murlocking is kind of like saying smurfing in a different game form, and that's kind of what he's doing. He's trolling. He's smurfing. He's beating them down. He's taking their wood away. He says, not for you anymore, sir. And Koinu has practically given up. His villagers don't even try to run away. He's out of this game. It really is on Akon to try and carry them here. He's switched into Springald production. The problem is there's so many knights still, and there's nothing to defend you. And here's the push in. It looks like Koinu's given up. He isn't even really moving anymore. Springals are going to be picked. Chase is in deeper. He's going to sacrifice the knights. This is a good trade. Like, he's already getting through enough Springals that it's worth losing the remaining knights. He's definitely probably going to get the Mangonel as well. I just don't see how you stop him. Longbow's moving to pick you apart as well. NotAkon not able to move quick enough for the Mangonel to get a damn good shot out. In fact, it's a complete whiff. And with that Mangonel gone, this is kind of the end. No GG coming out. Koinu still gathering wood on the back front. But your final build's going down. And with the Abbey Trinity gone, that's going to be him tapped out. And usually this is a situation where most players call a GG is when they lose a player. No GG coming out just yet, but I'm surprised there isn't a GG. I don't see what your move is if you're Japan. You know, like historically, if you came this under fire, Japan is very defendable as an island. But there's no islands in this game, guys. You're an open field, baby. Wide warfare, and it is mighty wide in this situation. Murlocking, just so many longbowmen moving in. And he's looking to aggressively drop that keep. Right in their face if he can. And this TC expansion, it was the hope. That's what we talked about, right? This is what France does. They try to recover with the TC expansion. Both players done this, in fact. But one of them is very safe to do whatever he wants. The other one is about to come under fire. And I really do like the way that they tried to play this, right? Like, I respect the way that they repulsed the early attack force. But I think the big mistake coming out from Japan here is they didn't adapt, right? They fell victim to the same attack twice, where two players attacked the base of the Roost player, and then Kiwian with the French Knights ran interception. And the second time, they done nothing. Absolutely nothing to counter this. They didn't put down an outpost network. They didn't have some spearmen in position. They didn't try to look for a secondary regroup point. They just ran troops across, and Kiwian continued to intercept and force this situation several minutes later. And really well played by Leenock. Fantastic of him to show just how powerful the Abysses can be with the correct timings and with the correct composition in a 3-on-3 engagement. Will give Korea the second point on the board in this several game series.